Welcome, everyone, to the final episode of Overpriced JPEGs of 2021. I'm Carly Riley, coming at you not live, but sort of, whatever. Coming at you not live from my parents' home in Vermont. I apologize to anybody on YouTube that the video quality is still not great because I've been traveling. And anyhow, goal for 2022, get the video quality up. I have to say, the audio quality in this episode may also be a little spotty, and I apologize for that, but it is for an exciting reason, which is we are bringing on several friends of the podcast for this one for a 2022 NFT predictions episode. I'm a huge fan of predictions episodes on the podcast that I like when they make predictions about, the year to come. So I figured for our last episode, that is what we would do here at Overpriced JPEGs. I have to give a huge thanks to the guests who came on today. I'm going to shout y'all out individually in just a minute. But broadly speaking, thank you so much. Just to give folks a little insight here, I had a totally different episode planned for today. And at the truly 11th hour, it was literally 11 p.m., I called an audible and decided that I wanted to do this predictions episode. I reached out to some folks who have been on the podcast before, who are going to come on the podcast sometime in 2022, and asked if they would come on and share their predictions for the new year. And I think overwhelmingly everyone said yes and made this happen at the very last minute. So thank you. And also want to thank the team at Bankless, Dave, Luke, y'all in particular, who will now be editing and putting this episode together also at the last minute. Thank you for all of the flexibility. But I'm hopeful that we have a really awesome episode here because just great insights from folks in terms of what we might be able to expect in the year to come. So shout out to all the guests who came on. In this episode, you will be hearing from Zeneca33, the one and only. I talk about him all the time. I'm so excited to have had him back on the show, giving us his predictions for 2022. Jean-Paul Faraj. He is the head of community and partnerships at Influence, an NFT game. Tempo and Jeremy, co-founders of the DeadHeads project, if y'all are familiar with DeadHeads, changing the way that IP works in Hollywood. We also have Betty NFT on the show, our very first guest. So glad Betty came back to share her predictions about the NFT space in general for 2022, and the one and only Mack Flavelle, founder of Big Head Club, formerly of Dapper Labs, brainchild behind CryptoKitties. He's back to tell us what he thinks is to come in the NFT market in 2022. So that's all coming up. I will close the show with, you could call it my own predictions, though my predictions really come out throughout the conversations with the guests. But I'm going to give you both the bull case and the bear case for NFTs in the new year so that you can make your own predictions and decisions. And please tweet them at me. Let me know what you're predicting for the new year. I would love to see it. And with that, we're going to hear a word from our wonderful, wonderful sponsors.
ZERION is the perfect place to view the entirety of your crypto portfolio all in one spot. Not only does ZERION aggregate all the tokens across all of your wallets, but it also displays the NFTs that you've been tirelessly collecting. ZERION even reports the value of your NFTs in your overall portfolio, giving you the most comprehensive report on the entirety of your crypto portfolio. And now, ZERION is going cross-chain. ZERION's comprehensive tracking and trading support also extends now to Arbitrum, Optimism, Polygon, and Binance Smart Chain to deliver a complete illustration of all of your assets across all of the chains that you use. ZERION isn't just a place to get an understanding of your portfolio, but it also hooks into DeFi activities like trading, borrowing, and lending, all in one convenient place. So you don't have to memorize all the various DeFi websites to do all of your DeFi activities. To get started, go to zerion.io/bankless and load up your wallet or wallets into the ZERION interface and supercharge your DeFi experience and enrich your NFT lifestyle. That's ZERION/bankless.
I want to give a special thanks to overpriced JPEG partner BlockBlock. Not only because they are a sponsor of this show, but also because they are my employer. BlockBlock is an innovative blockchain lab. We work across NFTs and the metaverse. And our goal is really to push the industry forward with every new project we take on. We founded and currently run the Meebits DAO, which just partnered with Larva Labs to create more metaverse-friendly renderings of Meebits, which is awesome. We are also partnered with a Sundance Award-winning filmmaker to build the first DAO that will own a feature-length documentary film. We have a ton of cool projects down the pipeline and are really looking for cool people to partner with on this. So go to blockblock.io to subscribe to our newsletter and be kept up to date about what we have going on, and also to check out open roles we have available. Would love to have you apply, come work with me, coming out, blockblock.io. Okay, and we are back. The first prediction, I misspoke earlier. The first prediction that I'm going to give here actually comes from William Peaster. He is a writer and an editor over at the Bankless team, on the Bankless team, over with us, the Bankless team. Anyhow, you get it. He is an editor and a writer with the Bankless team. He writes our Metaversal newsletter, which is the NFT newsletter that we put out every week. He's fantastic, and he could not join me for a recorded call, but he did share a prediction with me that I will share with you all now. So, from William Peaster, he says, "The big prediction I have for 2022 is that Cool Cats Pets will help catapult Cool Cats into a top 3 NFT collection behind Punks and Apes for a time." I love this prediction because it's so specific, and that's bold. You're bold, William. Most people don't make super specific predictions like that because they make like vague or macro predictions, myself included, so that's no shade on any of the guests who did that. But I love that William's sticking his neck out, making a very specific prediction, and we will check in next December and see how our predictions did and whether or not this came true. We'll see what happens with Cool Cats. If you're a Cool Cats holder, I'm sure you're loving this prediction. We had Klon, the artist behind Cool Cats, on for an earlier episode of the show, so you can go check that out if you want to learn more about Cool Cats. Anyways, thank you, William. That is his prediction. Cool Cat Pets, catapulting Cool Cats into a top 3 NFT project. Okay, we have in the studio, sort of, Roy Basine, aka Zeneca33, the person I think I mention on every episode of my podcast, here to give us his 2022 NFT market predictions. What do you got, Zeneca?
Whew. I mean, 2021 was like a century. The amount of stuff that happened this year is crazy. To try and, predict forward another year, it was tough when you told me yesterday that you were going to record this, and if I wanted to
I gave
jump
you a
in,
lot of time.
I don't have a lot of predictions, but let me think. I came up with a list. I actually wrote it down. I think gaming NFTs, we've sort of seen them explode towards the end of this year, 2021. That's just going to continue happening. It's just such a huge industry, multi-$100 billion industry, and it's just barely touched the NFT space yet. So, I mean, I don't have a specific prediction in terms of what project is necessarily going to pop off. I just think we're going to see a lot more from the gaming space. It's only just getting started, I think.
Do you think it'll be play to earn games, or you think it'll run the gamut? Non-play to earn games having NFTs as part of their ecosystem?
Yeah, I think it'll run the gamut. I think at the moment we're going through this phase where everyone is play to earn is the hot topic, the buzzword basically, and everyone is trying for it, but it's very difficult to create a sustainable play to earn ecosystem, just because if people are earning, then that's money coming out of the ecosystem. Money needs to be put in somehow, and just figuring that out, it's very, very difficult. So I think what might happen is that the first few months is a lot of people launch these play to earn games, and then we start to see them fizzling out because money dries up, and then we go to some other sort of system where it's I've heard people describe it as play and earn, where earning isn't the great it isn't the main goal. It's just the game is really fun, and there's some way to earn, but it's it's capped, it's limited. It's not no one's making a living off these games, but it's and I myself have thought of it from the perspective of it might not even need to be play and earn. It's just play and not lose, or play and own your assets. Currently people play games a lot and they pay for these skins, and it's kind of they're losing the money. They have no ownership of it. But if it's play and own your assets, then you could, sell it and move to another game or whatever it is. I think DAOs are going to be huge. We've started to see them take off a bit more in 2021. It was sort of a phase a few months ago, which is still going now, where people say, hey, we're going to launch a project with a DAO. Now we're seeing these airdrops, SOS DAO, Gas DAO, people are dropping, and the DAOs still haven't really been fully fleshed out in terms of a legal framework and just using them to their full potential. I think that there are a few that are doing really well, but like we're going to see a lot more take off. This might even be like 2023, 2024, but I think we're going to see them really take off, start to take off in 2022.
What do you think are some of the DAOs right now that are more fully reaching the DAO potential that you think others will start to aspire to?
You've got a couple of different approaches. There's like the investment type DAOs like Flamingo, which are, they're small, capped, I think at 99 members just because of regulation and stuff. And they're doing really well, but it's limited because of the number of members. On the other hand, you have things like Olympus DAO, which is, the Ohm coin, this massive protocol, DeFi protocol that's now like consuming the DeFi space. I think that's doing a really good job of, it's on-chain, it's governance, it's decentralized. So, yeah, I mean, those are two examples of DAOs that I think are doing really well. I think I could probably name 24 of that aren't doing well, but I don't want to name and shame perhaps. Honestly, Constitution DAO really just spurred on a lot of just innovation and like ideas. People were like, hey, this can work. Like, look at what happened. They've raised this much money and
you can mobilize people to raise 40 million in
exactly.
a few days.
Yeah, it was I think 5 days, and it wasn't. It could be done better. It wasn't like the most well organized, but they did a lot in just a short amount of time. Imagine if you spend a few months planning and then really flesh something out. The potential is enormous. DAOs, that was my second prediction. Another thing that I think we're going to see more of, which we're only starting to see a bit more of now, is like AI NFTs, like artificial intelligence related NFTs. We've seen AI art sort of take off a bit this year, like Eponym.
Avastars also did an AI Avastar who could like converse.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. That I think that's with Alethea, which is another AI protocol. It's a company. They've actually been around for like 2 years, but what they're doing is they want to bring your NFTs to life. So they're calling them INFTs, where like you train this pod with an artificial intelligence personality, and then you can infuse your NFTs with that and just, again, have a conversation with an Avastar, with a Bored Ape, with a, Cool Cat or whatever. I have two more things, but
great.
One was just added right before this, which was VR. I think we were just chatting because I got an Oculus and my partner Rachel got an Oculus for Christmas. And we've just been having so much fun exploring and being in this like virtual reality world. It's really mind blowing, and you can't comprehend it, I think, unless you've tried it and experienced it for yourself. And we're going to see, I think, 2022 might be too early for that to really go mainstream and explode. But I think more projects are sort of, maybe AR, augmented reality, is what we're going to really see take place. Like, you bring your NFTs to life, not necessarily in VR, because that's probably technologically a little more challenging, but everyone has a smartphone, basically. You can download an app and then augment reality with your NFTs. And I think we're going to see more of that. So that's going to be, I'd say towards the end of 2022, we're going to see like we'll go through a phase of AR NFTs, like we go through DAOs and like we went through I don't know, yield tokens and loot derivatives, and how there's phases in the NFT space. Yeah, one of the phases is going to be AR.
I talked to Parallel a couple weeks ago, the project, and they do like AR pack reveals, and they're ramping that up. So I think
That's
you're right
cool.
on that. I think we'll start seeing a lot more incorporation with AR potentially into reveals or things of that nature. The Meta presentation that Mark Zuckerberg put on mapped very closely to what it is like to
which
wear
is
the
not
Oculus.
surprising because it's Oculus, Facebook, etc.
It's the same company. It surprised me though, because I kind of saw that presentation and I did think that he was painting a future picture. I did not realize that these Oculuses were so good that it sort of felt like that right now, and that's what's made me want to try them. And I was asking you, and I maybe it's worth you articulating maybe why they haven't gotten bigger up to this point, why they aren't mainstream yet if they're sort of that cool. I think you had some interesting insights on that.
Yeah, I mean, one might be the price. I mean, it was $500 for a set. I think the other one is probably a bigger issue. It's just like, at least so far, it's not the most like comfortable experience. It's not smooth. Like it's a clunky headset. It's heavy on your head. After like 45 minutes to an hour, basically, I got to take it off, got to take a break. My head hurts. It's just like a little blurry sometimes. It's finicky to get it to look right. So it's not there yet. So in terms of user experience, and I think that's probably the thing holding it back, like price and usability. Taking another direction in terms of like mental health therapy, I think in the VR is something that could be so powerful, because it can be difficult for a lot of people to go to a therapist. It can be difficult to face their fears, like things like that. But doing it knowing like that you're in a safe space, you're in your house at home, wherever you are, feeling comfortable, but you could either be talking to a therapist or just going through some, like, I'm severely arachnophobic. I hate spiders. I wouldn't and I know that one of the best ways to get over it is like immersion therapy, like get accustomed to being around spiders. But I've just never wanted to do that. But I can imagine being in like a VR space where like spiders are crawling on me. I'm freaking out a bit, but like in my head, I know this is not real. And then I just get more and more used to it. So yeah, I mean, honestly, the potential is enormous, and we're going to see them explode eventually. Maybe not 2022 though.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, final prediction. You said you had one more?
I did have one more. It's all right. It's generative art. I think is going to like see another resurgence. Yeah. I mean, I think we've seen generative art like explode in 2021. Like it really took off. Obviously, art blocks had a crazy year, and then in the last few months we've seen a lot of, like, you can call them competitors or just other options for generative art between Gen.art. I think Proof released their own platform. And on the Tezos network, there's FX Hash, which is getting a ton of attention, and that's awesome, and collectors and creators are loving it. So I think that it's just such a perfect use case of blockchain technology and art that I think we really are still just at the very early stages of it. So it's going to be a huge year for generative art. I don't know specifically what it looks like. Like, I don't know if the art blocks market is going to pop off again. I don't know if all the attention is going to shift to FX Hash or something, but I don't think generative art is going anywhere, and I think we're just at the beginning. So I think what we've seen in 2021 is just like a tiny percentage of what we're going to see in the next decade, and it's going to, just 2022 is going to be a big year for generative art again.
Yep. Do you have any macro level predictions of like NFTs will do well or poorly in 2022?
Good question. In terms of predictions, I should have thought about the whole market.
No pressure.
Yeah, no, I think that because we're still so early, I mean, we all love to say how early we are, and that's true, but that doesn't mean that all the projects and NFTs that exist today are going to be worth more in the future. Like, most of them are not. But I do think that the market is going to be good and healthy in 2022. Like, I may end up eating my words, but I don't foresee like an 8-month bear market where it's just like doom and gloom and short of like some catastrophic regulatory issue. I just think that there's so many new people entering the space still, and it's just the perfect hotspot of like, it's not just crypto and tech and finance, it's art and it's culture and it's music and it's celebrity and it's just movies and brands and fashion, and it's literally everything. And everyone is starting to get involved and like testing, like these big companies are now testing the waters and getting involved, and they're going to want to be more involved. And celebrities are getting involved, and just it really is just taking the world by storm, just slowly. Like, it seems fast if you're in the middle of it, but from the outside, there's still a lot of people who don't know what NFTs are, don't understand what NFTs are, or know and understand and hate them. Like, they have their reasons against it. And I think it's just going to take time as people slowly come around to it and get educated and informed. More and more people will come to see what you and I and most of the listeners, I presume, see, that this is really revolutionary and like life-changing. It's just a game changer on so many different levels. So I don't really foresee the market doing poorly. I think NFTs are going to have another great year in 2022. But that doesn't mean that the collections that exist now will do well in 2022. Some of them will, most of them will not. Yeah.
I think you're looking at it, of course, very smartly, which is you were kind of looking, your initial predictions were looking by sector. So you're saying, I think gaming is going to do very well. I think VR is going to do very well. And I think generative art will do very well. And I totally agree with all of that. My prediction has been that we will have a few month period where there's like total panic, probably sometime around after like ETH 2.0 comes out, and maybe like the Coinbase marketplace hasn't created the flood of PFP buyers that people are expecting. And I think that the kind of the noisy part of the market, and there'll be sort of a PFP noisy part of the market that'll be freaking out, but that the underlying fundamentals, whether it be within art or within gaming, will continue to chug along and just get better and better. So it won't be cause for macro concern, but I do think we'll have a few month period of just panic and collapse in certain project prices.
I think that we haven't really seen a true blow off top and collapse yet. And so I'm probably going to walk back my prediction now about it being like not a bear market in 2022. I think what we're going to see is as DeFi and NFTs integrate more, and as protocols emerge where just retail investors can take out loans against their NFTs on a really easy level. Like currently you can do it on things like NFTFi and Stata, where it's like peer-to-peer lending, where someone makes you an offer, you say, all right, I'll put my NFT and you put your ETH in escrow. I'll give you, 20% for, 30 days, etc. And that's done. And then you pay gas for the transaction. It's very clunky. It doesn't work. And tons of people still use it. And there's this thing everyone in the NFT space knows. It's like juggling liquidity. Like there's so many projects that we all think are amazing and cool, and we're like, hey, I want to get in that. Hey, that looks cheap. I want to mint that. That looks cool. I need these NFTs. No one has infinite money. Like it's just like even the biggest whales still have liquidity issues because they're like, well, all right, I have 100 Bored Apes, but I want 300 Cool Cats. Whatever it is, there's always some sort of thing like that. And so having the ability to collateralize and take loans out of your NFTs, people are going to flock to it. And like these platforms are coming. I know several that are in the works. And like, a couple of months ago, they were say 6 to 8 months away. So sometime in 2022, I think we're going to see them. People are going to flock to them. They're going to take out liquidity against their existing NFTs that they think are blue chips and like they're fine. And then they're going to go and buy and invest irresponsibly, and gamble, which is sad and unfortunate, but people will always do that. Some of them will do it and make lots of money and it'll be great for them, but eventually people will start getting wrecked. As soon as the market starts to turn, just like in regular crypto, it's like this liquidity, everyone's just going to get liquidated and it's just going to be chaos. Like we're going to see this blow off top when people can extract liquidity, and then we're going to see this collapse like we haven't seen yet in the market.
I think that's a really interesting point, because I think we talk about this when you look at the cryptocurrencies, right? I think sometimes when you see huge Bitcoin sell-offs or huge ETH sell-offs and things, it's like it's the leverage getting flushed out of the system. And we haven't at least talked about it, or I guess really seen it in the NFT world, because you haven't been over leveraged using NFTs in the past. What you're describing is basically that, right? Like a newfound ability to get over leveraged using NFTs, and that's going to create, bust cycles that we haven't really seen thus far, along the lines of what we've occasionally seen with Bitcoin when it goes from 60 to 30K, seemingly overnight.
Yeah.
I'm going to say somewhat famously, but that's way too self-aggrandizing. But I did last year, I was on the Yang Speaks podcast in December, looking into 2021, and predicted that we would have that Robinhood would cause a financial crisis, which if you remember, like 2 months later, a month and a half later, you had the Melvin Capital GameStop situation happen. And I got a lot of credit on Twitter with people being like, oh my God. But it was because for a variety of reasons, have been looking into Robinhood, and other people were too, certainly, and just seeing how easy they were making it for folks to options trade or to trade on margin, to these retail investors that were getting these stimulus checks and just like clearly like trading on margin in ways that they couldn't afford. And I was like, this is terrifying. And Robinhood is making it way too kind of easy to leverage yourself. And for young people, and I was saying myself included, like, I don't think of myself as a sophisticated stock investor, right? Like I shouldn't be trading on margin. It played out slightly differently with the GameStop Melvin Capital situation, but it was sort of what I was describing, right? And so I tend to be doomsday about these things. And I think DeFi is in for such a terrifying crash at some point. I don't know if it'll be 2022, but when I look at how starting to get interconnected these protocols are, or these stable coins, and the way they're, you have stable coins that are backed by other stable coins who are backed by Chinese commercial paper, and it just feels like this whole industry is getting so deeply entwined that when one domino falls, you'll start to see others implode with it.
Yeah, it's going to be a crazy year. Like no matter what, it's hard to imagine it not just being absolutely insane.
Final question: any thoughts or predictions on the Coinbase marketplace, what that will be, what the effects will be?
I don't think it will be the OpenSea killer that people think it's going to be. I'll just say that. I do know that there are other marketplaces coming out that might be that. So that's my diplomatic way of answering and not answering it. I think it'll be great. I think it'll be really great for newcomers and for maybe a select few projects. But I think so many of us have gotten accustomed to using OpenSea and just like searching through any project and just having it listed. And I don't think the Coinbase marketplace will be quite like that experience. And I think people will be, and I hope I'm wrong, but I think people will be a little disappointed with it. But it's sort of kind of, they have to do things a certain way because they're a publicly listed company and all this kind of other stuff. I don't know exactly what it will look like, but I think people have expectations that can't possibly be met, basically. Ooh, one more prediction. Sorry. I think we're going to see like marketplaces that segment into like niches. So we've already seen that with art. Like we've got one of one art and stuff like that. We've got Foundation, we've got Super Rare, we've got generative art on FX Hash and Art Blocks. I think we're going to see sort of marketplaces come out that are just for gaming NFTs or just for AI NFTs or just for, just niches. And then they'll just do they'll do their niche better. And that's going to be another way that the market chips away at this monopoly that OpenSea has. Oh, I didn't even mention layer 2s. Like layer 2s are going to be huge in 2022. So that's another prediction. Like there's a lot that's happening in the NFT and crypto space. But I think, layer 2 adoption and like the bridges back and forth from them will just become more user friendly. And when that happens, more projects will launch on them. Gas fees on ETH will potentially go down, and it'll just be like more affordable for newcomers to enter, because currently ETH mainnet not very affordable or welcoming for newcomers. And like Solana, Tezos, Cardano, whatever, like the user experience isn't quite there. They don't have the great apps. They don't have the great marketplaces. So it's just layer 2s on ETH, I think, is going to be big next year as well.
Perfect. Next up, we have Jean-Paul Faraj, head of community and partnerships at Influence and a member of the Bankless Inner Circle here at Bankless, with his predictions on gaming and NFT marketplaces in 2022.
Yeah. First prediction is going to be that AAA gaming studios start to implement NFTs into their games in a bigger way. I think this is probably going to be towards the end of 2022, but I think it's going to make some big splashes in the gaming community. And then the second one about NFT marketplaces is that OpenSea will have a rival. Whether or not it's Coinbase, we're not sure yet.
Why would it be Coinbase? Why wouldn't it be Coinbase?
Yeah, I think the crypto community really wants to have Coinbase prove that it's going to be like non-custodial, decentralized NFT platform, so you can truly own your assets. If it's not that, then I think we're still waiting on something that's more decentralized, that people can really feel like there's no one controlling their assets.
Any other contenders that you see out there other than Coinbase, or this will be a yet to be seen contender that will come into the space in 2022?
Yeah, I don't think there's anything out there that I'm aware of right now that has the potential to really, I'll call it flip Coinbase, which would be a crazy feat. But that's my crazy prediction for 2022, is that we'll have a new challenger in the ring.
And what defines a AAA game studio when you say you've got these AAA game studios that are going to start incorporating NFTs? Say a little more on that.
Yeah, so AAA gaming studios traditionally have really, really big budgets for their games. They work with very well-known publishers, and they spend like upwards to 50% of their budget on marketing.
So it's going to be like a major game that's going to start having NFTs in it for the first time. Is that the prediction?
Yeah, I think we're going to see both a new game that has NFTs implemented into it, and then we're also going to see, I think, a existing game like Call of Duty or something along that lines that implements NFTs as well.
So you said you had a couple other ideas. What are your other ideas?
Yeah, so I think that we're going to see like billions upon billions of dollars, upwards to like $50 to $100 billion of NFTs being on layer 2s. How
many NFTs or how much value is currently on layer 2? Do you know?
It's a wildly like changing number every week, but it's for a lot of different things. So like there's decentralized exchanges, there's swapping mechanisms, there's a lot of money flowing through those products. A lot of it has to do with like lending right now, not a lot of like NFTs, because OpenSea right now hasn't implemented a lot of these layer 2s onto their platform. So like Starknet, ZK Sync, all of these things are not on OpenSea yet, which makes it difficult for people to really want to be selling an NFT on that platform, because why would you do that right now if no one has access to actually purchasing it?
I think Immutable X has plans to incorporate with OpenSea?
Yeah, I don't know when it's happening. I know OpenSea and IMX have both said like, yeah, it's happening, but I'm not sure when it is. Right now, IMX is built on StarkX, not StarkNet. So I'm curious to see if they're porting over to StarkNet. But there will also likely be another, well, there definitely is another NFT like trading platform that is being built on StarkNet as well. I don't know about ZK Sync just because the game that I work on, we're working with StarkNet.
Cool. What else you got?
Okay, so I think we're going to have, this is a scary one, but I think we're going to have like quite a few months of like our NFTs dead talk. That's for sure. Like if I have to pick one of my predictions that I think is going to happen, I think we might have a scare time in 2022 of like, oh no, is this all just a scam? Like, and
Yeah.
It's not, because like the true power of NFTs is incredible. It's not just images or JPEGs. They're not just overpriced JPEGs. Yeah, they're incredibly complex, token systems that can be linked to real world assets like houses, mortgages, a lot of things. So that's another prediction that leads me to my next one, is that we're going in 2022 to start seeing traditional assets being put onto blockchain utilizing NFTs. So one that I always like to use because it's pretty easy to grasp is like the deed to your house or your mortgage or something like that is going to be set up through blockchain. And then you will be able to have, like escrow or something. There's really no need for escrow if you have a smart contract that says if you have money in X account, you can buy a house worth X amount. And like you can do that all through blockchain. And so I think NFTs will be utilized in that flow. It's probably going to be late 2022. And this could be something that's like, I'm 5 years off, but I'm hopeful. I'm crossing my fingers 2022 on that.
On your point about we're going to have is our NFTs dead talks in 2022. I really agree with that. I'm betting it's like May, June, July. I feel like it's going to be like May through the summer is the time period on that. What is your guess on the time frame?
Yeah, I've actually been thinking a lot about this of like, and this isn't for all NFTs, but this is for like the PFP 10,000, like quick sell, like let's make some money type NFTs. I think it's going to be sooner than that. I think it's really going to be like April through like June. And
you're like a month ahead of my prediction.
Yeah. And the only reason I think that is that like the Ethereum 2 merge is happening hopefully in June, July. And so I think we're going to see a lull of some sort and in NFTs, because my prediction is that the price of Ethereum is going to just like be very volatile, both up and down in the coming months. And because of that, usually when Ethereum is wild, NFTs are like, oh God, I don't know what to do. Like,
so it's so funny. We have the exact same reasoning, but I guess I'm now behind on the ETH timeline because I thought they were shooting for like April, May for that. So my guess was April, May, ETH 2 happens. I think there's probably a run up in the price of ETH, whatever, in the months ahead. After ETH 2 comes out, price tanks and kind of remains volatile. And so NFTs also tank as a result of that. Plus, I think with Coinbase Marketplace launching, again, I think in the early half of the year is their goal. I think there'll be some like initial immediate excitement. And then I don't think it'll like totally move the needle on the PFP market the way some people hope or expect. Like, I don't think we suddenly now have like everybody and their mother using PFPs instead of their regular face. And I think when that reality sets in for people, that causes a lull. And I was thinking those factors conflating or, converging, I think we see a total panic in NFTs. So it felt like it would be like May, June. But if ETH 2 isn't now happening until later in the summer, then maybe that messes with my timeline. You also have, in theory, student loan payments needing to be made again in, I think it's May now. They just pushed it back from June to May. They very well might push it again, but I think student loan payments coming back into effect will actually hurt the crypto market.
Yeah, I will see. There's so many different meta factors that could affect our market that like you have to pay attention to, but you also have to ignore at the same time. Like it's so a weird world. It's like, okay, so if I were a marketing genius with Coinbase, I would, and I want everyone and their grandmother to have a PFP link to their Twitter, to their Reddit. These are all things that are happening on Twitter, Reddit, like all these platforms. Instagram is thinking about, utilizing PFPs. And so like there is a lot of potential there. But we also have to realize, like, if you go outside the crypto market and you tell someone like, oh, you can pay for an overpriced JPEG and use that as your profile picture and that's yours. Like most people are like, why don't I just put a picture of my face? Like
I don't have I don't have an NFT as my PFP. I want to use me. I like being me and I want my own fan face on there. Like I think people in the NFT space potentially do seriously underestimate the desire that will ever exist among people to use an image that's not them. Like, I don't think that's going to be as widespread as some people maybe think.
Yeah. And that's why like gaming for me is such a big thing. There's 2.7 billion gamers in this world that play a game like almost every day. And so when you think about that, those are the type of people who like to take on the roles of like someone else. They like to pretend to be some other character, the role-playing aspect of like, this is my person in the game that I play. Those people are really drawn, I think, to the idea of having an avatar that is different than what they look like. But for a large majority of the world, they're not that interested in that. But, with 2.7 billion gamers, and then you have like what I would consider the streetwear folk, like the people who are into like the cool, the underground, like these are all people that are going to be interested in this. So there's a lot of hype. But I think to successfully pull this off for like Coinbase and to have PFPs be a big part of the NFT world in long term, you're going to need free, like literally free NFTs that people can like get, and it's like from their favorite brand or something like that. And
or
like,
it's your Beyonce concert ticket, and you get to be like, oh, cool, I went to Beyonce's concert, and it's a picture of Bey or whatever.
Exactly. Like if Coinbase could partner with like Ticketmaster or something like that, and every concert ticket that you bought, like you got automatically sent a digital NFT into your wallet of the concert that you went to, like that would just be like really, really cool. Yeah. And if you think about like, and I'm a total concert head, and my dad and like he lived near or in San Francisco during like the time in which like the Fillmore was super big, and like every famous artist ever went through there, and he went to every concert like all the time, and his collection of Fillmore tickets and everything were like incredible. And then one day they were moving, and in the middle of summer they put their dresser out with all of the tickets that he had for years and years, like hundreds of tickets. It rained like for 30 minutes and it destroyed all of them. And like to this day, if you say that to him, there will be a tear in his eye. Like he will cry. My dad does not cry like ever. But like when you say his Fillmore handbills are all gone, like he wants to punch a wall and cry in a corner for a long time. So like the power of having an NFT that is truly, like people have to realize that NFTs, yes, they're not physical, but they are tokenized and therefore yours and provable that like they are yours, would mean a lot, because like all these artworks that were done by the Fillmore handbills and all these tickets, like they're gone for my dad. But if they go into the digital realm and you have these same little artworks and tickets and things like that, and you can collect them, and maybe there's a cool site to view them, then like that, like I'm already getting like giddy. I want to go to like Red Rocks and collect their stuff. And I could talk all day long about this for sure.
So then your other idea around housing deeds being put on blockchain, I think there's a couple elements to that. I think we could totally see that. I think our legal infrastructure isn't really caught up to recognize that in a way that actually meaningfully improves the experience of buying or selling a house via blockchain. So you're talking about you don't need to put money in escrow if you have some sort of smart contract where the money lives and it's coded to automatically be released if XYZ happens. That's what you're describing in your escrow example, correct? Is like, hey, I put $1 million into this smart contract, and the smart contract is authorized to automatically release those funds to another smart contract if XYZ happens. We make this deal, the money goes through, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's a pretty complex thing that needs, we need regulation clarity in the crypto market, which like I come to this question all the time is like, when is it going to happen? Because it's not a question of if, it's just when. Like, when are we going to get like clarity? And I think what we've seen in the past with regulation in crypto is like it comes out of the gate like pretty terrible. Like they don't have any idea. And that
Broker
like,
definition.
yeah, like they don't understand this technology, so it's hard for them to regulate. And so we have to do a lot of work to educate them. But that means like the first pass on all these laws, because they'll be like, oh, crypto, we can get tax money from it. And so they're just like trying to figure out how to get money from us. And that's fine. Like, but they need to figure out a way to not stifle innovation. And there's a lot of existing, like traditional institutions like the banking industry, the mortgage lending industry, which is very much tied to traditional finance and things like that, that don't want to give up that. Like they don't want to give up their ability to like lend out mortgages or anything, or even get like a small percentage of that taken away from them. But it's coming. It's just when and what kind of regulation we're going to get. And so that's another prediction for 2022 is I think regulation around crypto, while it might not go into effect, there's going to be a lot of discussion on crypto regulation, and NFTs will be a part of that.
Awesome. Next up, we have Jeremy Jenson and Tempo, co-founders of the DeadHeads project, with their 2022 NFT/crypto predictions. Take it away. Jeremy, you want to kick us off?
Yeah. So next year, I predict the wave will swap into quality, which is a common prediction. But I think when we go back in this past year and think about the fundamentals that we saw, it was really not that many PFP projects until Bored Apes. We saw Bastard Punks, V2, which not a lot of people remember. We saw Hash Masks, but nothing really kicked off that PFP revolution until Bored Apes. But I don't know how sustainable that is, given how great NFT technology is. So my prediction for 2022 is true IP and great use of the tech will triumph.
Love it. Move away from superficial PFPs into projects that are building on or utilizing blockchain fundamentals. Is that it?
Yeah. You're either using the medium properly as an artist, like Pac, or you're using the medium properly as a gaming company, like you name them, Zed or whatnot, or you're building great IP, like Cool Cats might be doing now,
and DeadHeads. Yeah. I don't know, just thinking of a project.
Just thinking of a fantastic
just spitballing here.
Exactly, and so I think people investing in the right things, the medium or the IP, are really they're going to be the movers in 2022.
Tempo, what do you got?
I 100% agree, and I think that's one of the issues in the space right now and it's such a big barrier to entry for a lot of newcomers, and it's why a lot of people are calling NFTs like scams and money laundering and all these other names that are kind of causing them not to enter the space. I think it's just because it's a bunch of kind of shitty art that doesn't really have much utility, doesn't really make a lot of sense to anyone that's not deep inside of the NFT world or just flipping without any real belief. Because whenever I tell my friends about DeadHeads, and they might have some kind of a predilection against NFTs just from what they've heard, but whenever I describe DeadHeads and how the IP works and how we're brand leveraging the technology of NFTs to decentralize IP, it makes so much more sense to them. And so I think as we move away from these sort of PFP meme type projects that don't really make a lot of sense, and we move towards projects that have real IP and real use cases for the technology, I think we're going to see a massive next wave of people coming into space. And I think everyone's going to be singing a little bit of a different tune about NFTs as they start to finally understand why it's so powerful and why it's so revolutionary, above just like a picture of a cat that is worth, $300,000 or, you have it.
And you think that new wave will kick off in 2022?
That new wave will kick off at some point in 2022. And I think with that, we're going to start seeing, like, as sort of the perception of NFTs change, we're going to see a lot of really, really big names start to enter the space. One of the biggest issues right now with these big names like Mr. Beast, for example, entering the space is that probably 95% of his followers would just absolutely hate it and make fun of it and say that he's just being a cash grabber, when in reality he sees the potential in the technology and is probably just waiting for the perception of NFTs to shift a little bit. in at least the general public's eyes. So I think with that, it's just going to be an absolute explosion of brands, big influencers, and projects that are a lot higher quality entering the space. And I think it's just going to cause sort of like a secondary NFT boom at some point during the year. I don't know exactly when it's going to be, but I think it'll be, at some point in 2022 is my guess.
Do you think there is what we would all probably consider a major PFP project right now, or a major project right now? Because all of these PFP projects are claiming that ultimately they're going to be IP or whatever, that we will see fall, that would shock people in 2022.
I do, if I may.
Love it.
The people won't.
The holders won't. I won't love it when it turns out to be one of the projects that I hold.
I think just like the same way things go up based on price action and fever pitch, when they fall, that same level of fever pitch seems to follow, as evidenced by Bitcoin or any asset that's pumped very quickly over a short period of time. The same energy that goes in when they go up can occur when they go down. And so I think if the PFP wave were to fall down a little bit, we'll see the Bored Ape Yacht Club have a 50% or greater drop if the macros no longer favor it.
That's a bold one. I didn't even ask you to name a specific project, but that definitely ups the ante here. All right, Bored Apes are coming for us after this. Awesome.
I may have made a huge mistake. We also share them, and I'm in them, and I went to all the events, and I like them a lot. I just think right now they have maximum good news cycle. It's hard to imagine anything better for them, but it always seems to happen. So who knows?
Love it.
That wouldn't even be anything new in the space. Like Punks just had a more than 50% drop in price.
Yeah, there was a flippening. Like, Apes flipped Punks for a couple times. Apes do seem to have more of a builder community, though. Their community seems to be a little bit more out there shilling. The Punks have a quieter confidence.
100%. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you guys so much.
ONJUNO is your new crypto-enabled financial services company. ONJUNO lets you get your direct deposit paycheck paid to you in crypto. Set up your direct deposit with ONJUNO and receive part of your paycheck in your preferred crypto asset, reducing the time that you're holding on to your inflating dollars. The best thing is ONJUNO sends your crypto directly to your own wallet, whether it's your Ledger, your MetaMask, or however you hold your crypto. ONJUNO can also be a checking account for your crypto, where you manage both your cash and your crypto from one simple account. It's free, and opening up an account with ONJUNO comes with a metal debit card that gives you 5% cash back at select businesses, including Uber, Starbucks, Walmart, Target, and other Web2 companies. Use code BANKLESS when you create your ONJUNO account, and our friends at Juno will airdrop you $50 in ETH when you set up your first crypto paycheck. Sign up at onjuno.com/crypto to get started. That's onjuno.com/crypto. Everyone is talking about the metaverse these days, and we're all still trying to figure out what it actually is, because everyone is looking for how to get exposure to it. That is why a metaverse index fund is so important, because in such a young market, an index can give you broad exposure to all the various players who are building out all these digital worlds that will ultimately become the metaverse. And that's why you should check out the Metaverse Index from the Index Co-op. The Metaverse Index gives you simple, easy, and safe one-click exposure to the emerging open metaverse trend. The MVI Index contains some of the biggest metaverse projects out there, including Axie Infinity, Decentraland, Illuvium, and more. So join thousands of holders who have already trusted nearly $50 million to the MVI Index. And if you buy $500 of MVI on the Dharma app, you can receive $50 worth of ETH on the Polygon network. There's a link in the show notes for you to click so you can get started on your journey into the metaverse.
We are back with Betty NFT, co-founder of the DeadFellaz NFT project, and our very first guest on Overpriced JPEGs. So you have a very special place in my heart, and I think in some of the listener hearts. So thank you for being back here, and I cannot wait to hear your 2022 NFT, crypto in general, market predictions. What do you have, Betty?
Thank you. Thank you for having me back, first of all. I love your podcast. It was a real joy to be on here and chatting to you, but also listening to your subsequent episodes. I really love what you're doing and you as a person. So just say that first. My NFT predictions are, I feel like 2021 has been the year that we've seen all of these initial, like the first wave of, well, I guess second wave we could call it, but the first wave of NFT projects as we know it, like as they have started, and we've seen them solidify themselves, their communities, and, we've developed a real culture. And I think that 2022 is going to bounce off of that and see those projects expand and explore into new directions, and to really apply that culture and, and that community and the experience and all of those things into new endeavors, and to really discover new applications for what we're doing. Because I think we're all very much focused as an industry on the art, which is because obviously it's been the first application of NFT technology. But I think that as we move into next year, we're going to see everyone really develop themselves into other avenues as well, and explore the utility side of things in a more fleshed out way, which is exciting to me because it's something that we're going to be doing with DeadFellaz as well. And I speak to other founders, and I know that they're exploring some exciting things too. I also think that, well, this is a hope more than a prediction, but it's a prediction because I trust that the NFT community knows what's up. I think that as mass adoption starts to spread, and we see more of these big players from the corporate world join, I hope to see a bit of a restructure in how their relationships are with their consumers. So I hope that they shift things to a more bilateral relationship. So, as we have in the NFT community, where it's more of a co-creation and a mutual beneficial relationship between the creator and the consumer. It's, those lines are blurred. I hope that we start to see that spread into the corporate world,
You were outspoken when Nike bought Artifact. I think you had a very nice, nuanced take, which is, you don't always find on Twitter, saying like, hey, I'm reserving full judgment here to see how it plays out, but I would have loved if Nike had instead formed some sort of collaborative agreement with Artifact instead of just subsuming them entirely. Is that sort of what you're talking about? Like ways to kind of maintain the Web3 ethos, either through just doing collaborations with corporations, or in a case where a big brand like Nike does take over Artifact, they allow Artifact to maintain the Web3 sort of more decentralized, listen to your community approach? Would that be an example of what you're hoping and in this case predicting to see in 2022?
Yeah, look, so that take is it was nuanced because I don't like to put out super strong opinions on things when I don't have all of the information. And with that situation, I just didn't have enough information to have a real commitment to either side of the spectrum there in terms of an opinion. But for me, it feels like, that sort of thing is an opportunity for a company like them to learn from what has been built and the way we're doing things here. And it is so mutually beneficial, and it is what the masses are going to be looking for in companies moving forward, whether or not it's got anything to do with NFTs. I think that for a long time, people are, we're over it. It's being used as people to sell to. It's like the value thing. So what value can I give rather than what value can I extract from a person? How can we benefit mutually? I think that those companies are going to be looking at that and hopefully taking that on board. I have spoken to quite a few executives in large companies in the corporate world, especially through LinkedIn. There's a lot of interest there and people trying to learn, and I do see there is a lot of interest, so I'm hoping that trickles through and has a real impact. In terms of Nike and Artifact, really, my concern was the holders of that collection didn't know fully what they were buying into, if you know what I mean. I think, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing isn't mine to say, because it could be an amazing thing, we don't know, and maybe it is now. But I think those lessons are there to be learned, and it is up to us as a community to continually question, because we are moving this forward together. It's not the companies moving this forward, it's us, and we have the power together collectively to sway things.
So demand more from corporations who are entering this space in terms of you have to play by our rules, which is create a community, give value back to that community, think about your customers, which is really what you probably should have been doing all along, right? First, and how you can create value for them rather than just how do I get them to spend more money in a way that benefits me. That's at the heart of what you're saying, it sounds like.
Yeah. It is. And we see this. So there's been, people enter the space, like you've seen Time and Adidas and, even Arizona Iced Tea has been around in the space buying up NFTs for a long time and just being involved, they're on Twitter spaces and stuff. And they're giving value and they're working with people that are already here. And yeah, that it's a different relationship. It's a more bilateral relationship at an equal playing field, whereas they're focused on inserting value into the space as well. To what level, I don't know, because I again don't have all the information, but then you see other players like we saw Pepsi and that join, and it just felt like a really rushed. I'm sure you saw that chat that they had. It was like Pepsi and Meta and who else?
Yeah,
Budweiser.
It was funny. Meta commenting on Pepsi like, "Can't wait to have you," and it's like, oh
yeah, like we're all gonna make it. Yeah, like we see like Pepsi and Meta saying we're all gonna make it. It's like, guys, you made it. You're the reason everyone else didn't make it. It was like, it made me feel so sick to see that. But I think the general reaction from the community at large was the same deep reaction that I had to that.
It was deeply cringe. Watching Meta respond to that
oh my God.
I want to find a better word even than cringe, but there was an element of like, it's like your parents trying to use like hip lingo, but then it feels more diabolical.
It was totally that. It was totally that because it felt sinister because it was like, these are the sorts of giants that have not provided enough opportunity or done enough in the world to make things equal, and to that whole analogy of there's no seat at the table for people, and so we have created our own table, and then all of a sudden they're coming over to our table like, hey guys, LFG. No.
Yeah, it's more than just a couple catchphrases. I know some people who are helping to advise Pepsi, and so I want to be sympathetic to them. I think Pepsi's trying to work their way through the space and before they launch something bigger sometime in the long-term future, but definitely there were moments that missed the mark in this attempted launch.
And that's the point. Like, I don't deny the fact that we are going to need large companies like that. I think personally, my take for this space to grow in a way that allows mass adoption and that sort of thing. But we need to be critical of how those companies are entering into the space. And if mistakes are made, they need to be made aware of those mistakes so that we can remedy them and really create something of value that's true to the space and continues to develop. To have a real impact that we all have that vision of.
Well, and that's exactly I think what you're calling for here, right? Which is okay, Pepsi had a weird introduction to the community, and so let's call them out. You don't have to be a total jerk about it, right? But say like, hey, this is how. Let's hold them to a higher standard, so that if they come back for round 2, they've put in the legwork in advance of really getting to know the community and adding value to the community before trying to extract from the community.
That's absolutely it. And looking at people that are doing it well, like I think just taking a seat back and realizing that you can't just enter into a space like this and, see it as a money-making thing. I don't know, or I'm not sure the intentions, because I don't have enough information to have a definitive opinion on it. But I know that entering into the space without fully embracing the ethos is not going to be good for anyone, because it is going to dilute it over time if we continue to allow that to happen without fully calling it out. So yeah, I hope that because it's going to happen more this year or this next year, I hope that we're able to, as a community, come together and hold people to a certain standard, I think.
Awesome. I hope it's true. It's your prediction, because we're going to be optimists going into 2022. We're going to hope that this time will be different.
Yeah.
And I believe it too. I think there's any new technology comes with good and comes with bad. But I think it's great to kind of focus on the good. And I think there's a lot of good principles that Web3 has today that hopefully we maintain as the space grows and we induct new people into it.
we're making this all up as we go along as well. At the end of the day, aren't we? Like, who knows the actual vision of this? We're all kind of exploring it at the front. Like, we don't know what things are going to look like. So yeah, it's interesting. It's going to be cool to see things unfold, I think.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Betty. Thanks for coming back. I'm sure I'd love to do a full conversation again in the future. We'll also check back in this time next year, see how we all did with predictions. We can look back at what corporate action happened over the year prior.
what cringe conversations, Twitter exchanges happened.
Yeah, exactly. And thanks as always. It's always such a pleasure to talk to you, and I appreciate you making the time during the holiday and given our wild time zones. That was another highlight of yours on Twitter, I thought, was I am once again asking for a universal NFT time zone. I think we can all relate to that.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for having me on. It was nice to chat to you, Carly, as usual.
All right. Talk to you soon. Mack Flavelle, welcome back to the pod. Return of the Mack. And on your birthday, no less. So happy holidays. Happy birthday. Thanks for being here.
Happy birthday.
And we talked about this last time you were here, sort of notoriously good at predictions. So here I am teeing you up, setting expectations way too high. Hit me with your 2022 NFT crypto industry market predictions.
Here's what I think. I think that NFTs are here to stay. I think that NFTs are part of identity. I think that NFTs need to change. I don't think that NFTs as they are palatable to most people. I think they're really fun and really neat and really exciting. I think they are a permanent ink with which we are writing the future, but I think that they are going to evolve. So they need to become more accessible. I'm not going to tell you how. I'm not going to tell you which blockchain you're going to use or which L2 solution or the Ethereum is going to figure it out. I have no idea. I'm not like smart enough, technically, definitely not, to know which path is the future, but that it must be better. I know, and that it will be better, I believe. I think that the degenerate gambling rush that you get from minting most NFTs will not become the predominant story of how NFTs are acquired. I don't necessarily think it will go away. There's this like rush of people being foolish, and some of them having a great time and a bunch of them not having a good time at all. When it's all said and done, when you kind of wake up and look around. Again, like, that's cool if that's what you're here for, and some people are, and all power to you. But I don't think that's what everybody wants. And I think NFTs are going to go mainstream. I think these are going to become part of a digital identity. I think that most people are going to lead digital lives. It's just for them to become that, they must evolve from where they are. And that means a different form of accessibility, more readily form of accessibility where you don't have to have a deep expertise or be willing to gamble excessively in order to find value in these NFTs. So to be honest, I was just talking to one of the guys on my team, like right before you called, and I was like, you know what I want to try doing? So this is my prediction. We're going to do this. I think other people will, because I think it's going to work so well. I'm going to regret saying this, but I want to do an NFT where we permanently guarantee we will buy back the NFT for the floor price, for the minting price, for all time. You can just come back and we'll write that in the smart contract. Like, you don't have to trust me. Fuck that. This is the blockchain. Trust the smart contract. Because everybody else is making NFTs, is doing a single project. If that project makes a bunch of money, they win and they're rich and like they live happily ever after. And if they fail, then it just didn't work out and they go away. We're a business. We're going to be here for a long time. We can afford to run this kind of experiment. And I'm glad that we're doing this call, to be honest, because I've been struggling over the holidays with like, I need to twist our business a little bit. It's not quite right. I need to twist the shape. It's close. The gear's almost fitting into the machine, but it's not quite. I think that's and
guaranteed floor NFTs.
Yeah, totally. We can do that. And so why not? If you believe in the project, why not? Again, I'm going to regret this. Whatever.
I think it's awesome.
The real power of NFTs is inaccessible because of this fucking circus shit show distraction, which is the like highly liquid, highly fun, almost gambling. I'm not calling it gambling, almost gambling that most people are doing on mint days. So when that fades away, and what I mean by
stripped out.
Yeah, what I mean by accessibility is somebody sees something that they like and they're like, oh, I would like to buy that. because that looks important. I want to say that that represents me. I want to attach my sense of self, my identity, to ownership of that interesting piece of artwork. And I can afford to do that because I know that if I need my rent in 3 months, I can sell this back to the people who made it. I know that there's like not a gambler's madness. The world does not need more gambling. I fucking love gambling, to be clear. I'm a degenerate gambler. I will bet on which fly is going to leave the wall first. I don't fucking care. I just like, whatever, I'll gamble on it. I think it's fun. But the world doesn't need more gambling. The world doesn't, like, that's not what the world, I'm not helping the world, but I don't think I'm building gambling things. And I sure shit don't want to be. I want to build communities and art that people love and identify with and stand by and define themselves by. And when we have accessibility to that, then we have the future of NFTs. And I think we can get there. When you look at the most popular NFTs at the end of 2022 and you say, is this a collectible art or a gaming piece? It will be very difficult to put it in one of those circles and not the other.
The Venn diagram is becoming a circle.
The Venn diagram is becoming a clover, not 3 separate shots.
That's good. That's good.
And the successful NFTs of 2022, you want your bold predictions, will sit in the middle of that Venn diagram. Top 3 projects at the end of 2022 that we're talking about will sit in the middle of that Venn diagram.
Valuable prediction. I like this. And I'm predicting that somebody may do an NFT project in which there's a guaranteed floor, a guaranteed mint price floor. We shall see.
We shall see.
All right. Great predictions from our 5 guests. Thank you all. 6 guests, 7 guests. I don't know. Who can count? Thank you all so much for coming on. I will now give what I'm calling the general bull case, general bear case for NFTs in 2022 so that y'all can make up your own mind about what's going to happen in the NFT market in the year to come. Okay, in the bull corner, you have a couple of things happening, several things happening. I'm sure I will miss some, but here are the big ones as far as I'm concerned. You have all these social media platforms talking about verifying NFTs on their platforms. Twitter is, of course, the big one who's doing this. TikTok has talked about doing this. I think Instagram has floated the idea of doing this. So you're going to have social media platforms really endorsing the concept of NFTs, I guess endorsing their sort of fundamental value prop, which is that you can verify digital ownership in a way that you never previously could. That's obviously really good for the space. You have new NFT marketplaces launching, which hopefully will solve part of the UX problem we have here in NFTs. Zeneca talked about it. I think Jean-Paul started talking about it a little bit, which is that OpenSea right now is the dominant player in the NFT marketplace space, but there's a lot of flaws with them. People love to hate on OpenSea, but in many cases it's for good reason. So you have Coinbase launching. That could be a huge on-ramp for new people into the NFT space. But you have a number of other platforms that are launching as well that may help improve the user experience and therefore draw new people into the space. On like a macroeconomic picture, inflation is high right now, and it looks like it may stay that way for a while. The Build Back Better plan did not get passed by the administration, but has been sort of kicked down the road to sometime in 2022. Who knows if it'll really make it through. Point being, there could be more renewed, super high government spending, worsening inflation, and in general, driving people towards assets like stocks, but especially like cryptocurrency, places like Bitcoin, places like ETH, places like NFTs. We have ETH 2.0 coming in 2022. This should make things more sustainable. Maybe it makes ETH mainnet work a little bit faster. In either case, it should help quell some of the concerns that folks have around NFTs and around this space in general. If they pull it off seamlessly, in theory, that should be a good bull case for NFTs, though I will say, I do think that once ETH2 goes through, we will actually see a bit of a drop in the price of ETH and some volatility, which could temporarily cause there to be sort of a slowdown in the NFT market. L2s have been building like crazy in 2021. I think that will continue in 2022, and we will start to see the fruits of some of their labors just in terms of more action happening on L2s. And we'll really see how scalable ETH is. That could be a huge boon for the space. If you're talking about L2s that have lower gas fees, that are able to really come into the NFT market in a more significant way than we've seen so far. And don't come at me. I know Solana and other platforms have cool NFTs. We will talk about them. I'm not an ETH maxi, but I obviously ETH is where most of the action has been happening up to this point. Ethereum is where most of the action has been happening up to this point. L2s doing well in 2022 could make for a really good
time for NFTs in general. Finally, regulation. If we get clearer regulation in the crypto space in general in 2022, I think you'll see more institutional players diving into crypto in general. That just means more money in the ecosystem, more money to be put into NFTs. You couple that with better user experiences with platforms like Coinbase, et cetera, and suddenly there's a huge bull run of NFTs, and hopefully we are all benefiting from it. So that's it. Those are your sort of high level factors that, if it goes right, I think make an excellent bull case for NFTs in 2022. But I want to give you the counter arguments to these points because it could go the other way. I will say on par, I'm bullish. I think the bullish outweighs the bearish, but I also think it may be sector specific, sort of within NFTs, certain sectors succeeding far more than others. I mentioned that in my conversations with some of the guests today, so you've heard that. I'll say a bit more on it after I give you the bear case. On the bear side of things, as we've heard from, I think, a number of people today, clearly the market got too frothy in 2021, specifically around PFP projects. So many generative 10,000 PFP projects promising the moon, promising games, promising huge IP that truly will never be able to deliver on it. And 2022 could be the year that the music stops for a number of those projects. And if that's the case, that could be a huge distraction that causes a general market downturn in a really big way. It could, for a brief time, kind of bring down the ecosystem, be the main chatter, create a panic. If you see the dominoes start to fall among PFP projects that really can't deliver on their broader roadmaps, and there are a lot of those. Also have what Zeneca talked about, which is the potentially the ability to borrow against NFTs and really over leverage yourself using NFTs. And if that happens, I think, again, as those dominoes start falling, as NFTs start going down in value, people start losing a lot of money, there's less money to be put in the ecosystem, and you have this just spiraling factor of everything coming crumbling down, even some good projects. So fear not, I don't think that if that's to happen, I don't think it will last forever because there will be good projects that will rise up again. But I think it could cause a bit of a bear market for a good chunk of 2022 in a worst case scenario. Another factor to consider if you tend to be a bear for 2022, if you're bearish on NFTs in 2022, there was so much money pumped into crypto and pumped into NFTs in 2022 and 2021. And we're a fan in this space of saying that it's early, and it is. We are very early in terms of the number of people who are in this space now versus the number of people who will ultimately be in this space. And by in this space, I mean will ultimately own an NFT. I've on the record saying I think that everyone will own NFTs at some point because they will just be so ubiquitous. They will be receipts, they will be concert tickets, etc. So everyone at some point will own NFTs. But the group of people that are in this space right now, we are such zealots. It is entirely possible that we have already priced in later market adoption now. Just because the space is early in terms of user adoption doesn't mean the prices reflect the early stage that we are at all times. Because of how enthusiastic we are, it is entirely possible we are sort of making up the difference between what the true value for these projects are now and what the value will be down the line when more people are in the space. I'm saying things could be overvalued based on where we are right now because they're pricing in that future growth that we all expect. And some of that could come to the forefront in 2022 if the industry doesn't grow at the feverish pace at which it grew in 2021. If it doesn't grow at that pace in 2022, some people may say, "Ooh, we overvalued this ecosystem at large." They could start dumping. Again, you create a domino effect. The whole system comes crashing down, at least for a period of time in 2022. I should say, y'all know I'm very bullish on NFTs in the long run. So I think if we do see a crash in 2022, it's actually just a great buying opportunity. But I do think that's one way in which it could happen, is people realizing that growth was already priced in, that it was overpriced in, and that there needs to be some price corrections happening. Finally, if L2s and other L1s don't deliver as much as maybe we're all expecting them to, given the building that's happening on those platforms this past year, that could be really disappointing for folks. If we're not able to solve the scalability problem on ETH, if another L2 or another L1 isn't able to really pose a solid challenge to ETH mainnet or the Ethereum mainnet, I think you could see that disappointment really causing a bear market to set in. That one's really hard for me to imagine. Having talked to some of the L2 builders, I know people are really bullish on L1s. I'll be talking more about them in 2022. I think it's hard to imagine that none of the players really rise up to expectations. I think they really will, but you never know. If they don't, that could cause a bear market in 2022. Finally, the counter to what I said earlier on the regulation side, if we continue to fail to get clear regulations, or worse, continue to get like objectively horrible regulations like what we saw with the broker definition, that could scare institutional bigger players away and just leave the market smaller than it might otherwise be. So again, could be more of the bearish case for 2022. Long term, I'm super bullish. I think who knows if it takes a year or 3 years or 5 years or 10 years or, well, I don't think it'll be 100 years for this to really become a mature industry, but it will happen eventually. And those of us who are learning it, understanding it, taking the time now, I think we'll be really glad that we have, because this is going to shape so much in the future. Finally, I want to say a word on the metaverse, because I think we didn't touch on that as much in this episode. We did a little bit, I think, with Zeneca talking about VR. I think we are very much still in the infrastructure building phase of the metaverse. So, it started to get a fair amount of mainstream attention because of the Facebook Meta announcement. And so you had all these other corporations coming out, Disney Plus, et cetera, saying, hey, yeah, we're metaverse platforms as well. But I think it'll continue to be a lot of talk in 2022 outside of some very niche circles, which we will, of course, be covering. And because there's still a lot of the infrastructure that's being built, and this stuff really won't start hitting the mainstream in a way that we feel for another several years. So 2022, perhaps a little disappointing on the metaverse side, depending on what your expectations are. But I think under the surface, there's going to be a lot of amazing building happening, and we will be covering it all here at Overpriced JPEGs. I want to close with a huge, huge thank you to everyone who has supported this podcast so far this year. It's been such a, I don't know, I was going to say such a journey. It feels so corny to say that. It's been such an incredible pleasure for me. This is such a dream come true. Anyone who subscribed, has listened to an episode, rated or reviewed the podcast, tweeted at me on Twitter. Obviously, tweeting happens on Twitter. I'm incredibly grateful. And I've been spending this week, and we'll spend the next few days, really mapping out what this show will be for at least Q1 of 2022, but 2022 in general. I want to be a little bit more thematic in the topics that we discuss. We'll kind of do a deep dive into the world of gaming one month and the art investing world another month. And I think I have some really cool things in store if you want to learn and go deep, which is really what I want to do. I want to go deep on the several verticals that I think are emerging as the big important verticals in NFTs and in the metaverse. So I hope you'll stay with me and be on this journey with me in 2022. We've got a lot of cool stuff in store, and just thank you. Immensely grateful for anyone who's listening to this now. Please tweet at me your predictions for 2022 or anything you would like to hear from Overpriced JPEGs in 2022. And with that, have a happy, healthy, safe new year. I will see you next year.
Hey, we hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, head over to Bankless HQ right now to develop your crypto investing skills and learn how to free yourself from banks and gain your financial independence. We recommend joining our daily newsletter, podcast, and community as a Bankless Premium subscriber to get the most out of your Bankless experience. You'll get access to our market analysis, our alpha leaks, and exclusive content, and even the Bankless token for airdrops, raffles, and unlocks. If you're interested in crypto, the Bankless community is where you want to be. Click the link in the description to become a Bankless Premium subscriber today. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for in-depth interviews with industry leaders, Ask Me Anythings, and weekly roll-ups where we summarize the week in crypto and other fantastic content. Thanks everyone for watching and being on the journey as we build out the Bankless Nation.